Hello, my friends. So my video response to this entire video series is pretty simple. Abortion should be a choice. The woman can make a choice whether to have an abortion or not to have an abortion. That's it. That's my whole argument. Basically, if you want, you can shut the video off right now because that is my main point. And there is no argument against that fact. The fact of the matter is, if you have religious leanings against it, then don't have one. If you are in a position where whatever circumstance is going on in your life and you have to have an abortion, that should be an option for you. It's very simple. It's like an elective surgery. But anyhow, if you want to watch me rip this guy a new one, go ahead and watch the rest of the video. Enjoy.
Starhawk is a best-selling author and a highly regarded voice within witches circles. She's also a licensed minister of the Covenant of the Goddess. Starhawk defended abortion this way: "It is in our encounter with the mysteries of birth and death that we meet the Goddess. So to take away our right to have that encounter through abortion, to face that often painful and difficult choice, is to deny a woman's deepest spiritual self."
So first of all, you didn't give a chapter and you didn't give a page number. So I had to go through the whole book and find it. I finally did find it from this book, which you did mention, and it's in chapter 14 on page 254, and this is what she wrote. Context, again, is very important. Abortion is, as we all know, one of the most painful and controversial spiritual issues of our day. The goddess religion has no hard and fast ruling on when a clump of fetal cells becomes a being. In fact, I, Starhawk, was taught that the moment varies greatly with individual pregnancies. Some women have a sense of new life even before conception. Others may not feel that the fetus in their womb has taken on a soul until the time of quickening. This is one of the mysteries. It is in our encounter with the mysteries of birth and death, growth and suffering, pleasure and sorrow, that we meet the goddess. So, to take away our right to have that encounter, to face that often painful and difficult choice, is to deny a woman's deepest spiritual self. For that reason, pagans on the whole are strongly in favor of choice. Although, of course, as with everything, individuals will differ widely in their opinions.
Susanna E. Budapest is a Hungarian-born witch considered to be the mother of the feminist spirituality movement in the United States. She founded the first feminist witches coven here in the 1970s, the Susan B. Anthony Coven No. 1, which served as a template for other feminist covens across the country. A prolific writer, Budapest has provided spiritual justification for abortion and offered abortion rituals in her books. In The Grandmother of Time, Budapest wrote, "Abortion is the prerogative of the Dark Mother." Dark Mother is an allusion to the life-taking aspect of the goddess that always accompanies her fertile, sensual nature.
The Dark Mother can represent a myriad of goddesses. My interpretation of that is that there is a dual aspects to almost everything, especially when you are talking about a deity which overrules everything, or at least the concept of a deity that overrules everything. And in Christianity, essentially, you have that duality. You have God, the Creator, who creates everything, is infallible and perfect, and yet opposed to him is this devil figure, the Satan, the adversary. He is the one that brings all the woes of humanity, all the lust, all the wars, all the plagues, because obviously your pure and great good God cannot possibly be responsible for plagues and miscarriages and murder and genocide. So you have this aspect. You have your light, good God, and you have your dark, evil God. It is the same thing in this context. It is understanding, however, that the Dark Mother serves a purpose. We often don't like to look at all the negative aspects of life. However, they are there. People die. People get sick. People have unfortunate things happen to them. It is a part of life, and it is in the moment when you are dealing with it very difficult to understand that why such a good person or why such a strong person or whatever has suffered for no apparent reason. So, yes, the aspect of a dark mother is very difficult to understand, but it is understanding and accepting the parts of life that human beings have no control over. It is understanding that. So the Dark Mother may mean different things. And to Susanna, it may mean a particular goddess, or it may mean that aspect of deity.
Budapest believed abortion is a woman's responsibility, making the choice of life and death as much a part of the goddess as her life-giving good nature.
Again, you took both of those quotes out of context, so let me read you the full paragraph. Abortion is the prerogative of the Dark Mother. She aborts us monthly. It is called menses, or the menstrual cycle. The shadow of motherhood is abortion, which is also our responsibility, making the choice of life and death as much a part of the goddess as her life-giving good nature.
As one goddess-worshipping witch put it, the goddess who whets your appetite with sexual pleasure also whets the knife.
Okay, this author, I tried to find any relationship between her and witchcraft, and I couldn't find any. This particular quote is taken from an article that she wrote for a website called Euthanasia. Basically, they are into lowering the population of the earth. So this is kind of an extreme, controversial viewpoint, but it is what they are pushing. She has no association, in my opinion, I have not been able to find any, with witchcraft. This is just a website where you pulled this quote because it sounds awful and terrible and will probably shock most people. And so you took it and you put it into this video. She has nothing to do with Starhawk. She has absolutely nothing to do with Susanna Budapest. She has absolutely nothing to do with witchcraft or Wicca or paganism. If she does, I couldn't find any information, and she's not speaking for all pagans and all witches and all Wiccans.
Jeanette Paris is author of the books Pagan Meditations, Pagan Grace, and The Sacrament of Abortion. She's a witch who currently serves on the core faculty of the Pacific Graduate Institute in Carpinteria, California. In The Sacrament of Abortion, Paris writes, "It is morally acceptable that a woman who gives life may also destroy life. Whoever kills a fetus commits a murder," which happens to be a fascinating and sobering acknowledgement of a biblical and scientific truth.
Again, these two quotes are taken out of context from very similar paragraphs. It is morally acceptable that a woman who gives life may also destroy life under certain circumstances, although there are restrictions on the use of this power. And there is always a time limit within which the decision must be reached. That's from page 53. She goes on to say in the next page, "The amount of time varies in different cultures, but beyond that point, whoever kills a fetus commits murder."
It is not immoral to choose abortion. It is simply another kind of morality, a pagan one.
Those who claim that abortion today is an indication of selfishness on the part of women and couples, that the child is sacrificed to the lowest standards of our atheistic materialism, express a certain aspect of the problem, because egoism and materialism certainly do exist. But by looking closely at individual cases, a more important theme emerges. The majority of women who abort do so because they know that the unwelcome child born of constraint and misfortune will be wounded in some unacceptable way. As Artemis might kill a wounded animal rather than allow it to limp along miserably, so a mother wishes to spare the child a painful destiny. There is nothing more cruel than the suffering of children, and mothers know this better than anyone. It is not immoral to choose abortion. It is simply another kind of morality, a pagan one.
One can occasionally resort to abortion when it is necessary to sacrifice the fetus to a higher cause.
He actually jumps ahead and takes it from page 107, which is basically the end of the book. And again, this quote is taken out of context. The same quality allows us to visualize a world of increasing respect for children, a world in which one can occasionally resort to abortion when it is necessary to sacrifice the fetus to a higher cause, namely the love of children and the refusal to let them suffer.
In the book, a woman is instructed to consider the reasons behind abortion. Paris asks, to what ideal or what set of values is she sacrificing the fetus?
So now we're on page 94. Why does it seem more important to her than continuing with her pregnancy? To what ideal or what set of values is she sacrificing this fetus? It's useful to think it through and communicate it to someone else.
Her repeated references to sacrifice is purposeful. Her entire book can be summed up as advocating abortion as a sacrifice to the goddess Artemis. Historically, the goddess Artemis was worshipped as a goddess of birth and a goddess of blood sacrifice.
You are taking, again, the wording that this woman is using for it, and you are twisting it to assume that she is suggesting to people to actually sacrifice a fetus through abortion. The act of having something physically removed from inside of you, which I can only imagine is emotionally, psychologically, and physically scarring. I have no concept of any way anyone could think of this as a sacrifice. If anything, it is a necessary procedure, much like removing a tumor or having some other form of surgery. It is not something that is taken on lightly. Nobody goes under the knife thinking, oh boy, I'm going to go under and have an operation done on me. No one thinks that way. It's not a sacrifice, and Artemis is not the goddess of sacrifice. No, Artemis is not a goddess of blood sacrifice.
Abortion as a sacrifice to Artemis. Abortion as a sacrament for the gift of life to remain pure.
Okay, so now we're bouncing back again to page 107. So, just to remind you earlier, the same quality allows us to visualize a world of increasing respect for children, a world in which one can occasionally resort to abortion when it is necessary to sacrifice the fetus to a higher cause, namely the love of children and a refusal to them suffer. Abortion as a sacrifice to Artemis, abortion as a sacrament for the gift of life to remain pure.
The post office box of an Aware Woman abortion clinic employee, Veronica Jordan, was the same mailing address for the Open Circle, the Wiccan newsletter, which recruited volunteers to work magic around the property of the abortion clinic. Why then does this newsletter recruit abortion clinic defenders and rally Wiccans for pro-abortion demonstrations?
Because a lot of people, what they do is they get so filled with self-righteous indignation that what they do is they hound and berate and throw and threaten people who are going into abortion clinics. And they often need people to shield them from these crazy fanatical people waving sticks in front of their face. That's why they were asking for volunteers.
We see frequent Wiccan bumper stickers appearing on cars of abortion clinic workers. The goddess is alive and magic is afoot, and in goddess we trust.
So you're trying to make some kind of a point here, and the only point you are making is that some people who work in abortion clinics have bumper stickers on their cars supporting the goddess or Wiccan traditions? Okay, so the fuck what?
One high priestess of a witch's coven explained her support for abortion this way: "It is only in maintaining full control of our bodies that we maintain our full empowerment as priestesses. Access to abortion is truly a witch's issue." In other words, this high priestess is saying that abortion is an essential part of sexual liberation, which is an essential part of the craft.
No, it does. It says exactly what the quote says. It says abortion is a witch's right. And it's true. It is. It is a woman's right. It is a woman's right to have one. It is a woman's right not to have one. Men, we don't have the ability to shoot life out of our limbs. We don't have that ability. If we did, we would be making that choice, but we don't. Women make that choice. We can obviously decide to have a vasectomy, or whether or not to sacrifice hundreds of kids in the morning or later on in the afternoon through our own self-pleasure. But when it comes to a woman's decision, she actually grows life inside of her. So yes, it is her decision as to whether to have that life or not have that life. Obviously, if it's a married couple, then it could be a couple's decision. But ultimately, it comes down to the woman.
In Power of the Witch, spokeswoman for the Witches League for Public Awareness, Lori Cabot, extols the paganism of the ancient Celtic world, in which fornication, adultery, and homosexuality were normal.
I know this might be really difficult for you to understand as such a repressed Christian who believes that homosexuality is something that popped into existence in the 1960s. Let me give you a little background. Homosexuality goes way back for thousands and thousands of years. You can see it written on vases in Greece. You can see it written on the walls in Rome. Homosexuality is perfectly normal. So you are the one that thinks it's abnormal because you are abnormal in your thinking to it.
The mother goddess cult is presented as a joyous, playful, sensuous, peace-loving culture.
That's kind of looking at the struggle of the various pagan cultures kind of on a one-sided scale. But yes, for the most part, I think they probably were embracing life. Because recently you just had that war with that other tribe and your best friend got killed and it was a pretty bloody, ugly time that we, as a people, many people, all peoples had to go through. So yes, when you had a moment to kick back, have a cold one, and relax with your friends and your wife, yes, it was time to embrace life.
Cabot describes the permutation of the mother goddess into an old crone and the horn god into a ravenous animal. Cabot's description closely mirrors the transformation of ancient deities from sensual sun gods and fertility goddesses into demons of ritual human sacrifice.
Oh man. Okay, not all gods were sun gods. If you look at polytheistic cultures, let's say Rome, Greece, Celts, they had various gods that ruled over various different aspects of human condition. If you look at a lot of the Greek gods were very petty and jealous and arguing and doing things behind each other's backs and having liaisons with other gods and being jealous. They were very, very human. The other gods in Rome and in the Celtic lands also represented pretty much the same thing. They ruled over certain things. They seemed to have infights, jealousies, and all of these things. So they were not all sun gods.
Child sacrifice and abortion were practiced and were accepted as facts of everyday life, the necessary consummation of rampant sexual immorality.
Abortion was probably a fact of life. But the rate of children coming to term and then actually being delivered and then being raised to an age where they could become helpful, like become a farmhand or a warrior or whatever, it was a pretty slim chance. So most women, when they became pregnant, if they became pregnant, they didn't want to have an abortion. Chances are they probably wanted to have the baby because it just was very difficult to have children back then. If they did want to induce a labor or if they did want to induce an abortion, they probably had ways to do that.
What we're witnessing today is a return to ancient fertility rites, when the gods and goddesses of fertility were invoked through ritual sex.
Where are we seeing this? What are you talking about? Are you talking about like raves at parties? What the hell are you talking about? You're talking about because people have abortions that somehow that's a fertility rite? What is your concept of a fertility rite?
And children were the accepted human sacrifice to ensure personal and communal prosperity. We're seeing a growing spiritual justification for abortion, a thinly veiled cover for ritual child sacrifice.
I love how these people, they pick out the most horrible aspects of human existence and amplify them as if it was an everyday occurrence that people did all of the time. The cultures from the past that did perform a human sacrifice was probably a very rare occasion. And even so, that was the past, literally thousands of years ago, and this is today. What we practice today, what we believe today, has absolutely nothing to do with what people practiced 2,000 years ago. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different ballgame.
I'm Abigail Seidman, and my mother worked at an abortion clinic in Ohio from when I was 11 to when I was about 17.
So I'm going to leave a link to Abigail's blog right below, or her testimony, as she says. And oddly enough, in this testimony, she never mentions anything that she mentions in this particular video.
The staff there frequently wore, Wiccan-style jewelry.
Are you serious? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Oh, wow. They wore jewelry? Did they wear like crosses? Did they wear a cross around it? No, they didn't wear a cross. Oh my, they wore a pentagram? Oh my. Oh my. Did you call the police? Did you call the police and tell the police that there was a person working at an abortion clinic wearing a pentagram? Oh.
Or clothing in the, Wiccan, sort of witchy style clothing. The Wicca style jewelry, goddess jewelry, that kind of thing. Most of the clinic workers wore some kind of goddess symbol.
This is the image that I'm getting. I walk into this abortion clinic for whatever reason. I don't know why I'm there. Maybe I'm with my girlfriend. Maybe she's getting an abortion. And there's all these women walking around, in bustiers carrying flags of ale. And then there's people dressed like hobbits wearing cloaks and staves. Is this what I'm supposed to, is this what I'm supposed to expect when I go into an abortion clinic? It's just a whole group of Game of Thrones versus Lord of the Rings.
Or Wicca symbolic jewelry, moons and stars kind of things.
Let me just go out on a limb here and assume that no matter what job they would work, they would probably be wearing that jewelry. So it's not that they're wearing jewelry because they work in that abortion clinic. They're wearing that jewelry because that's the jewelry that they want to wear, and they happen to work in an abortion clinic. Maybe they wanted to work in an abortion clinic because it's in alignment with their beliefs and they want to protect a woman's right to choose. That could be.
Goddesses, Labrys, which is a double-headed axe, which is a symbol of lesbianism. That was a common thing that was worn.
So a battle axe is the universal symbol of lesbianism. Okay, I'll have to tell my sister that next time I see her.
But as far as I know, the circle, the coven or circle or whatever was the abortion clinic. That was the group. They did ceremonies together as a group.
I kind of doubt that they would use an abortion clinic as a place to hold circle. If they did, they probably did it after hours. That seems odd to me, but they may have. They may have had no other place to have a temple. Often people do rent out rooms at especially bookstores or somewhere else to hold a circle. I kind of doubt that they would do that because it is essentially, it's a clinic. I don't know. Even if they did, it really doesn't fucking matter. It's just a place for them to gather together.
There was one woman who annually got pregnant every spring and had an abortion every fall. That was, a big sort of ritual thing that they all did. That's the first I heard about it. As I remember asking my mother, like, why is she getting pregnant on purpose if she doesn't want to have a baby? And, why is she waiting to have an abortion until fairly late? And why does she do this every year? And my mother kind of didn't want to give me the full answers about those. And a lot of it was, you'll find out when you're older someday. When you've had an abortion, you can understand.
So you're saying that there was one particular woman in this clinic who purposely got pregnant every year around the same time just so she could have an abortion. Do you hear how stupid and ridiculous that sounds? First of all, who at the clinic is not catching on to this saying, hey, let me introduce you to something called contraception? Abigail, I'm sorry, but with the rest of the crap in this video, I don't fucking believe you. And I'm calling bullshit.
A lot of people think the same thing I thought when I was 11 and saw occult jewelry on people. Oh, that's weird jewelry, or that's a pretty thing, or whatever.
No, it's not weird jewelry. It's just jewelry.
Learn what these symbols mean. Learn what these, if someone mentions the name of a goddess on something, learn who that goddess is and what she's associated with. That's the best evidence. That's the best thing I can say as far as evidence. There were statues all over the clinic that I now recognize.
All you have to do is Google it. People who practice paganism, witchcraft, Wicca, the occult, none of this is hidden information. You just Google it. If you want to find out about it, you buy a book and you learn about it. We're not trying to hide anything. There's nothing secret about it. The knowledge is out there for those who want to find it. It's very simple to do, especially now with Google. You just type it in and start reading. I would suggest, however, instead of going to a Christian website about it, you actually go to the source. In particular, if it's a god or a goddess, find out about the mythology, find out about the stories, and then go to a Wiccan website, for example, to find out what they believe about that particular goddess or what they associate with that goddess.
As being Ashtaroth, or there were dragons. Dragon symbology is very common. If you see this kind of stuff, that's the evidence. That's the only smoking gun I can give you, is find out. You have to educate yourself and then draw your own conclusions from the evidence.
That's the evidence? That's the smoking gun for what? The fact that they are Wiccans? So you're just saying that just because someone is a Wiccan, they are automatically guilty of what? What are they exactly guilty of? Whatever you imagine they're supposed to be guilty of? It doesn't work that way. First of all, it's a religion. It's accepted. It is a religion.
Tiamat was sort of a Mother Earth type deity, but with a twist. She was the great dragon who the Babylonians said had created the universe, and then Marduk, the god of the sun and the light, killed her and used her body and blood to create the earth and all the life on it. And what I overheard in bits of conversation or had explained to me was that by stealing blood from men, we were stealing men's power back by killing their children.
Okay, so by having an abortion, they were stealing power back from men. How exactly is this supposed to work? How do you even come up with such a concept? That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So the only way a woman can get power over a man is by having an abortion?
And by feeding the blood to Tiamat as Mother Earth, we would help her regain her strength, and then eventually she would rise up and overthrow the male-dominated world, destroy the current world, and recreate a new world to be ruled by women, which...
Okay, so in this cross-pollination of Game of Thrones versus Indiana Jones, if abortions have been happening all of this time at this particular clinic, for example, and I'm sure that, especially with this lady who's going in and getting pregnant every year and having an abortion over and over and over again for who knows how many years now, and they've been pouring their blood onto this statue of Tiamat, and it still hasn't come to life and taken over the patriarchy and killed every single man on the earth yet? Kind of a weak god. I mean, maybe they're like 99% spilling the blood onto this statue, and they're just waiting for that one little 1% more, and then the statue will come to life and go and kill everyone. This is so stupid and ridiculous.
Of course, would be the ideal. This was definitely a, man-hating, women-only culture. They're the ones who are truly pro-abortion. Most people who identify themselves as pro-choice they're really pro-choice. They're not necessarily pro-abortion. They just think abortion ought to be available as an option. These people, the people I'm talking about, this core of abortion-worshipping, goddess-worshipping feminists, believe in abortion as a good. They want more abortion. They want to encourage abortion. They think there needs to be more abortions, that we're not having enough, that it's not doing enough to be encouraged, that it needs to be celebrated.
This is just jumping the shark on the abortion issue. It comes down to this. It is an option. If you need it, you can have one. If you don't want to, you don't have to have it. There are many, many reasons why a woman may have to have an abortion. Economic reasons may be one of the core reasons. Maybe they're just not prepared to have a child come into their life. Maybe they found out that this particular child is not going to survive because it already has some sort of defect or something to that effect. There is literally a myriad, a whole range of reasons of why a woman may have to have an abortion. It is not something that people just kind of wake up one morning and just decide to do. It just doesn't work that way. So even if this weird Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones type environment that these people that you are supposedly saying work in this clinic, where they're all walking around in robes and staves and thou shalt have an abortion now, and they want to have abortions. They want everybody to come in and have abortions, and they're just like, they're putting it out there like, come, have an abortion, you have an abortion. Even if they did that, it is still the individual choice to have an abortion or not to have an abortion. It's not their sales gimmick that's going to make people come in and have an abortion.
Women must decide our fate, not the church, not the state. Women must decide our fate, not the church, not the state. Women must decide our fate.
An example of the spiritual deception that so often leads to the trampling of the sanctity of life can be found in a newsletter published by the National Abortion Federation. It provides an account of their 1985 National Convention. One of the speakers was Carter Hayward, an ordained Episcopal priest who's been active for many years in the feminist movement. In her address, she stated, "If women were in charge, abortion would be a sacrament, an occasion of deep and serious and sacred meaning." That an ordained leader of a church that supposedly represents Jesus to the world could describe child sacrifice as a sacrament or holy rite of the church without facing excommunication is a staggering illustration of the collective deception we are now facing as a nation.
Again, you fucking idiot. That is not what she said. She is understanding that when a woman makes a decision to go in to have an abortion, that there are spiritual, psychological, emotional attachments that probably are there, and it is not an easy decision, and it's not an easy thing to do, and they may have all kinds of spiritual questions about that. And so having a way for a woman to have that abortion and let go of that is a spiritual understanding. And that, I believe, is what she is referring to. And that is what she is referring to. So the idea that abortion could be a sacrament is that it is not a sacrifice sacrament.
Several other examples are found in the December 1985 issue of Ms. Magazine, the undisputed leader of feminist publications. This particular issue was completely dedicated to exploring the new emerging spirituality in modern feminism. Much space was given to goddess worship, or adulation of the various demons associated with child sacrifice, including Isis and Aphrodite. The central article in this issue of Ms. is filled with testimonies showing the gross deception that has already taken captive much of our nation, men and women alike. The feminist spirituality movement began to emerge in the 1970s and has become one of the largest submovements within feminism. It's amorphous, blending in a surprisingly smooth amalgam of radical feminism, pacifism, witchcraft, Eastern mysticism, goddess worship, animism, psychic healing, and a variety of practices normally associated with fortune-telling. It exists nationwide and takes the form of large day-long workshops, small meditation groups, and even covens that meet to work spells and do rituals under the full moon. But to the women in feminist spirituality, witchcraft had an even more fundamental meaning. It's a women's religion, vilified by patriarchal Christianity and now finally reclaimed.
Yes, no shit. This video is a perfectly good example of it. Every reference that you have used to witchcraft and paganism has had a negative spin on it. Even so far as going back for 2,000 years ago and assuming that people are going around sacrificing children today in abortion clinics, wearing jewelry and walking around in robes and trying to get people to come in and have abortions. This is obviously exactly what they are referring to in that quote that you pulled.
Today, we have given the demons of human sacrifice new names. Career, convenience, money, lust, self. But beyond this, we have come full circle. Today's rationalism has given way to a new feminist spirituality that honors these same demons, actually calling them by their proper biblical and historical names. We are witnessing an explosion of books, magazines, how-to manuals, websites, artwork, and the inevitable paraphernalia that accompanies the development of any organized religion. Surely it can be no coincidence that one of the hottest sub-movements within feminism that began to emerge after the Roe v. Wade decision is goddess worship, or that one of the primary deities that is being worshipped is Aphrodite, the goddess of child sacrifice.
So again, pretty much at the beginning of this video, I said it all. They are just salty and upset that people have the choice. Women have the choice to have an abortion or not to have an abortion. They're upset about this. Tough. So they've tried to paint this horrible, horrible clinic and try to disparage and try to throw shade on it, pulling things from thousands of years ago in jewelry and whatever. They do all of this simply to try and make this out to be something something else other than it is. The truth of the matter is, abortion is a choice. You can have one or you can't have one. That's what it comes down to, and that's what they are against. They want it to be completely outlawed so that no one, even if they want to, even if the baby is going to be born dead, they don't want women to have that choice. Anyhow, thank you so much, and blessed be.
Ha 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 ha!